Once again here on Talk and Fight for another episode of Boxing News Today. I wanted to start off today's episode by pointing out an article I discovered, but I don't really have time to read the entire thing. It is a long article, but it's a great article written by the staffers over at ProBox TV who are looking into their 2024 crystal ball. I'm telling you, it's a great article. They have a lot of great opinions, worth reading, worth thinking about, and worth discussing among your friends. Check it out. They talk about the Saudis' cash. They talk about anti-doping. They talk about the welfare of ex-fighters. Uh, they talk about who they think will be the best heavyweight, who's the best up-and-comers, and how to make matches that the fans want in the wake of all these things happening in a kind of a very tornado-ish effect this year, given the influence of Saudi money. Anyway, more on that later. As we all know, we had a really great women in the ring fight this past weekend. Actually, we had a couple, but I'll speak of one in particular to begin this episode. Michaela Mayer and Natasha Jonas went toe-to-toe in an absolutely great fight in Liverpool. Natasha Jonas ultimately had her arms raised as the victor with a split decision coming by way of the judges. And not that anyone disputed, but I'm pretty sure people will have controversial comments online and discuss it in greater length online with respect to that decision because it was close and it was a great fight. But anyway, you can read about those various opinions online in the very many articles that have been written from both sides of the pond with respect to who they believe won the fight. But according to the judges, Natasha Jonas won the fight. She's 39 years old, though, 15-2-1 in her professional career since being an amateur who competed in the 2012 Olympics way back when. And has had fights against Katie Taylor, Chantal Cameron, and Lauren Price. And will she fight again against these people? I don't know. Is she close to retirement? Yes. Is she one of the top fighters in the world? Yes. And quite frankly, so is Michaela Mayer, a former unified junior lightweight champion. Who's really battling hard, has had a couple of tough decisions go against her. But I'm telling you, she's a great fighter to look out for. And she's doing and saying what is required of young women today in the ring. I want to tell you about a certain comment made, though, by James Slater in boxing247.com. His opening comments. There was my phone. Sorry about that, fans. First things first, said James Slater. It was a great fight last night, Liverpool. This is reigning and defending women's IBF welterweight champ Natasha Jonas. Slugged it out with former super featherweight champ Michaela Mayer over 10 rounds, at times blistering sessions. 39-year-old Jonas was rewarded with a split decision, scores being 96-95, 96-94 for Jonas, and 97-93 for Mayer. And this is where the stuff we're unfortunately so used to these days will no doubt come in. Over the coming days, if not sooner, you'll probably hear the following robbery, home cooking, and corruption terms. And for sure, we already have seen those online. He continues, we've seen too many controversial decisions over recent years to be able to keep track of oftentimes. However, the R word is not necessary. In the case here, as last night's fight was pretty much nip and tuck, still some finds are bound to strongly suggest Mayer was indeed the victim of some home cooking being served up to her opponent. Mayer, ever the sportswoman, has not cried robbery, with her merely saying she believes she won last night, and Mayer, who absolutely deserves a rematch, called for one immediately. Jonas was full of praise for Mayer after the slugfest was over. Jonas calling Mayer the best she's fought after Katie Taylor. Says this could be her final year in the sport. So will the rematch actually happen? As great as last night's battle was, combined with the fact that the decision seemed to be destined to be argued over, the sequel should happen. And maybe Liverpool warrior Jonas will agree to fight in America this time. Seems only fair. So there are some split opinions on who won, as I said. Let's have a quick read about Another writer of Corey Erdman over in boxingscene.com. Great publication online for all your boxing news if you're interested. They do have a variety of great articles. He says this: as primitive a sport as boxing is, it can never be a true meritocracy for a whole host of reasons. Boxing, promotion-based privilege, uh, amount of resources, subjective scoring, and yes, gender all play a role in a fighter not always getting exactly what they feel they deserve. However, there's a line of thinking that suggests that the fans themselves could be the arbiter of fairness under a specific set of circumstances. Fight the best opponents available, produce entertaining fights, be an engaging personality, they say, and the opportunities and the fans themselves will show up regardless. Mayer is becoming an excellent citation for that hypothesis. Despite 2 high-profile losses, Mayer has maintained a significant level of popularity and interest due to the quality of her fights, and added by her work as a color commentator and leveraging of OnlyFans to form more granular connections with fans wanting behind-the-scenes access to her training. As has been since the doors were open to women on boxing broadcasts of significance over the last 7 years or so, fighters are turning their inherent disadvantage into something positive for viewers, with fewer women participants overall, and as a result, uh, show overall talent in the given divisions. Elite level women have been forced to seek the best and biggest challenges available in order to receive television time and purses worth their effort. As Jonas Meyer, Taylor Cameron, Taylor Serrano, Shields Marshall, and so many more over the last 2 years alone have shown top level women's fights have a high probability of delivering commensurate action. If it keeps up, perhaps the balancing of the scales in terms of airtime, compensation, round length, whatever it may be, can become a reality rather than hypothesis. Good words from a very good writer. Let's move over to Japan. Uh, Actually, Japanese news, but for fights taking place in the Philippines by our good friend Joe Kozumi over in Japan. Once beaten ex-world challenger, WBC, WBO number 1, Shokichi Iwata, 12-1, 9 knockouts, proved too powerful and accurate in dropping former IBF world minimum champ Rene Kwano. He's 21, 5-2, out of the Philippines 4 times before the referee's intervention at 2 minutes 21 seconds of round number 6 in their scheduled 8-rounder this past weekend. Oh, it did take place in Tokyo, Japan. Sorry about that, fans. Having failed to win the WBO 106-pound belt from Jonathan Gonzalez in 2022, Shikichi improved his physical power since and has displayed it in decking Kwano twice in the second each, once in the fourth, and the fatal 6. The Filipino's nickname is Mighty Mouse. He kept swinging roundhouse hooks, but often missed the target, only to be counted effectively by the hard-hitting Japanese fighter. Good stuff. And there's another fight. 10-time national amateur champ, unbeaten former prospect Kenji Fujita, 6-0, acquired the vacant WBO Asia Pacific featherweight belt when he fought a long and tough tumbling battle with Filipino Joseph Aribo, 13-4-1 now, and pounded out a unanimous decision over 12 rounds, again taking place in Tokyo, Japan. An accidental low blow of Fujita in round 5 had Aribo down for that 5 minutes before the Filipino reluctantly resumed fighting. Showing shifty mobility over every round. Fujita and Southpaw steadily piled up points, but couldn't finish the Filipino. So a great fight, great 2 fights I wanted to mention that were taking place recently in Japan as well. Let's have a quick look at what's happening in Saudi Arabia these days. As we know, as I mentioned last week, Saudi Arabian sports chairman Turki Al-Sheikh is ready to commit to the heavyweight division until 2030 and make the best fights possible for fans. However, when outlining his vision, Al-Sheikh admitted that the problem with the sport today is having four sanctioning bodies. Riyadh season continues with an undisputed heavyweight title clash between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk coming on February 17, which we're all looking forward to. And the event is certainly a gem in the total heavyweight dominance by the region. But it's not a flash in the pan for Turkey. He has a 6-year plan to keep delivering the best heavyweight fights as he attempts to snap up some pound-for-pound stars as well from the lower weight divisions. As I said last week, he said, I'm a fan of boxing. I study it. I have people to study it. In the 70s and beginning of the 80s, the sport was the number one sport in the world, and it was boxing, yes. Now I'm very sad. The last search result I had before we go deeper inside boxing was it's now 14th rated sport worldwide. And there are many reasons, some of them being that there are not a lot of fighters who are charismatic and have character now. There are a lot of problems with the promoters. They don't want to do the strongest fight because it costs a lot. Some fighters don't want to do the strongest fight, and there are 4 companies and 4 belts. So, facing a younger generation of boxing fans and upcoming fighters on rosters, including a little bit of music and entertainment, good shows and good promotions are what he's looking at doing for us fans in the future down the road. But let's have a quick look at what Eddie Hearn has to say about this. This is the reality, I suppose, of today's boxing world. So I would have to say the mecca of boxing was once Las Vegas. You might argue that great fights were also held at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, Madison Square Gardens in New York City, as well as London's Wembley and other venues around the world on occasion from time to time, i.e. the Thrilla in Manila, the Rumble in the Jungle, etc. Anyway, when talking about Tyson Fury upcoming battle against Alexander Usyk and Anthony Joshua's fight against Nagano, which is interesting because Eddie Hearn didn't appreciate the fact that Tyson Fury was going to initially fight Nagano. Anyway, so it's interesting that Joshua is now going to be fighting Nagano, I believe in March upcoming. Anyway, Hearn says he doesn't think these upcoming fights in Saudi Arabia would be possible from a financial standpoint if they were held in the United Kingdom. He said, you're not going to get Fury versus Usyk in the United Kingdom. You're not going to get AJ versus Nagano in the United Kingdom. So you're getting those fights now in Saudi Arabia. So if they take place in another country, so be it. Like I said, there's a whole world out there, and boxing in the Middle East is growing. And sport in Saudi Arabia particularly is growing at a huge, huge pace. And the opportunities for the fighters, speak to Dimitri Bivol, speak to AJ, speak to Usyk, speak to Fury, ask them if they're happy. And we'll get to Tank in a second here. The answer is very happy. They're getting big fights, they're getting financially rewarded for it, and fans are getting value for money on pay-per-view. Look at Day of Reckoning. Look at those cards coming up. Look at the good news for the fans that we're seeing on all these major fights. Good stuff for sure. And also I'd argue that the undercards on these major fights are equally prominent. But again, I would like to see if His Excellency and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia are going to continue to promote women in the ring. I do know I think it was in 2022, Ramla Ali fought in Saudi Arabia, I believe in Jeddah. But I haven't seen any mention recently with respect to Saudi Arabia and promoting women in the ring. And I mean top high-level elite women in the ring. And speaking of undercards, Australian top heavyweight prospect Justice Huni, who we have mentioned many times on Talkin Fight, is set to feature on the undercard of the WBO mandatory clash between Zhilai Zhang and Joseph Parker on their March 6th fight at the Kingdom Arena in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. So I thought I'd quickly mention that. Good fighter from down under. Now, I'd mentioned Tank, and here's his story. Gervonta Tank Davis says the Saudis have made him mad. He wants them to send him 2 Ferraris to get the ball rolling for him to fight with WBC light welterweight champion Devin Haney in Saudi Arabia. Again, this goes to the discussion about the Saudis needing to move away from focusing on purely the heavyweights and the light heavyweights and possibly the cruisers. But digging deeper into the various divisions, and especially including women as well. So anyway, Tank's demand for expensive cars is him sending a message to the Saudis that he's the star and Haney is just a lowly B-side. Wait for the opponent who isn't a draw, according to BoxingNews24.com. Uh, the two Ferraris that Tank Davis wants is just the tip of the iceberg for what he'd be asking for to take a fight against the gigantic 165-pound Haney, as he'll likely want an enormous amount of money, perhaps more than what he got for his recent fight against social media star Ryan Garcia. As I said, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh recently said that he wants to stage the fight between Haney, 31-0, and Davis, 29-0. But there hasn't been any further announcement. Some believe that Al-Sheikh intends for the 25-year-old Haney to be the A side in the promotion, which wouldn't sit well with Tank, who's viewed as the face of boxing and is coming off a massive million-plus pay-per-view fight against Ryan Garcia last April. Tank being the B-side, as they say. I don't know where this is coming from. It sounds to me like the music industry, A-side and B-side. Anyway, Tank being the B-side against Haney would be a shock to the fans, but a signal that the Saudis view him as the one and true star. Haney isn't a star because his fighting style is very boring and safety first, like Shakur Stevenson. Moreover, Haney lets his dad, Bill Haney, do all the talking for him, as he doesn't have a gift for trash talk. Although Haney is now adorning himself in gold chains and clothes and fixing his teeth in what some see as becoming a chameleon to attract fans, it looks like he's a poser. Oops. Oh, man. Tank going on here. They made me mad. If they want something, they got to send something to my door, like two Ferraris or something. And this is, he said on social media, by the way, go figure. They picked Francis Ngannou as Tyson Fury's opponent last October over real boxers in the heavyweight division, and now they're doing it with Anthony Joshua. If they view Haney as a bigger star than Tank Davis, there's nothing the Baltimore native can do about it. He'll either have to agree with what's being offered or move on. Do you get that, Tank? Do you understand? Speaking of moving on, there was a bit of controversy over in the UK this weekend with respect to Misfits Boxing, KSI's endeavor, where he puts influencers, YouTube stars in the ring to fight each other. And I'd mentioned last week a female fight between Elle Brooke and AJ Bunker, a fight that did take place and was won by Elle Brooke. But elsewhere on that particular card, there were a couple of gents going at it. I don't know who they were. It doesn't really matter. But commentating ringside, it seems that as the referee was beginning to count out one of the opponents who got decked, promoter Leonard Edelby and ex-world champion Andre Berto had a bit of had an opinion on this. And this is Berto. He said, these YouTubers keep playing. Sooner or later, they're going to get really hurt or die thinking this sport is a game. He said, this is BJ Flores, who has immersed himself in an influencer boxing. He defended the Misfits. He goes, this is how we're working, champ. Everybody's getting knocked out, as if it was a good thing. Anyway, Mayweather Promotions Ellerby said, what is he counting for, referring to the referee? Just as Bertie just said, somebody's going to get seriously hurt. This is very disrespectful to the men and women who do this for real. Now, I'm going to weigh in with my one-shot comment here. This kind of sounds hypocritical because, quite frankly, when you, I would say, Google boxing, you'll get other sports such as slap boxing, midget boxing, sorry for being politically incorrect, kickboxing, bare knuckle boxing. And, they all have their different rules. They all have their different appeal. But at the end of the day, there are two people going toe-to-toe, I would assume, with some rules surrounding their fight. Nonetheless, are they dangerous? Any fight is dangerous, quite frankly. So in particular, with respect to Misfits, it seems that it used to be promoted by, shall we say, Professional Boxing Association, the PBA over in the UK, but they dumped the organization, quite frankly. PBA officials distanced themselves due to concerns over boxing safety, quite frankly. Due to the clear violations of the PBA's rules and regulations, they said, bringing boxing into disrepute, and in the interest of boxer safety, the organizers' licenses have been suspended, and disciplinary hearings will follow for such license holders. So legal action could follow on both sides, even though uh, uh, the organizers did find another uh, company, shall we say, a commission, who sanctioned the fight. So that goes on and on in terms of quote unquote boxing attracting a new generation of fans, and whether that due to the influence of cash coming via the Saudis or influencers on the other side of the coin and their massive fan bases. And in the middle of it would be a guy like Ryan Garcia, who is a good boxer, if not a potentially great boxer, but an immense number of great fans, millions, and of course YouTuber Jake Paul, who is boxing boxers these days, but again, on behalf of his millions of fans who are interested in the sport now and probably looking to find out who else is good or great in the sport, if not the best. And I think that's what the Saudis are attempting to do. But as they've pointed out numerous times, one of the big issues is the number of uh, ABC type organizations who quote unquote control boxing. So we'll see where that all ends up. But anyway, there's a great article, as I said. I've put the link down in my description below. Check it out. Uh, it appears courtesy of writers on Pro Box TV who discuss this and many other issues in great length. Check out their article. It is well worth the read. Thanks very much. Remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We'll see you later on.